Welcome back, everyone, to episode 14 of my Bloodborne lore play. Just doing a little quick contact attempt with the moon, since it's a very strange moon, one where apparently the clouds go behind it, which shouldn't be possible since the moon is so far away from planet Earth, or whatever planet this is supposed to be. You know, you always forget the little things, and I left my phone on Audible again. I'm an idiot. All right. So we've accomplished a lot of things since the last time that we did an update for the story, did a recap. I have heard the feedback from the people who have been watching these episodes, and obviously the recaps tend to be a little bit long. So I will put a note on the screen to indicate when the recap is supposed to finish. And you can just jump straight into the action if you don't need to hear me give my long-winded recap of the last 3 episodes. But I think they do have some value. If you've been watching these episodes, you've noted, at least if the recap is something that you've been listening to, that I do tend to add maybe a little bit of detail that I might have missed when I was playing through the game. Not huge revelatory bits, but stuff that probably would help with your understanding of what's been going on during the game if I just, for whatever reason, failed to mention that. So that'll certainly be the case with this most recent recap, but let's go ahead and get it started so that I'm not spending 40 minutes talking. Hopefully this won't be another 30 minutes intro to the actual gameplay, but let's see how long it goes. So at the start of, I guess that would have been episode 11, we entered Yahar'gul through the upper gate that was open when we awakened from Rom's dream realm. The unseen village, quotey fingers, can now be seen for what it truly is. Lesser amygdalas, or maybe it's pronounced amygdalae, cling to nearly every building that we can see, and villagers made out of blood are sprouting from the ground. Given the high number of lesser amygdalae clinging around the village and the knowledge that their name is also a region of the brain that processes the emotion fear, one that they may in fact feed upon, it sure seems like something terrifying on a mass scale has happened in the village recently. The blood villagers that we're accosted by are much stronger than their standard counterparts, and killing them does not seem to stem the flow of others from attacking. Eventually, we find that the source of these blood villagers are the bell-ringing maidens that populated the Nightmare Frontier, although we do not know for certain that there is a connection between them. They just are very similar. Killing the maidens stops the blood villagers from spawning and debuffs the existing ones. Down on the lower city streets of Yahar'gul, we get definitive evidence that the School of Mensis has conducted and or completed a ritual, or even multiple rituals. All along the main thoroughfare are small pools of what we can assume is blood containing burnt corpses, many of them still on fire. The corpses are tied to stakes, suggesting that they were still alive during the ritual. One of the core materials needed to enter the Chalice dungeons, ritual blood, describes the act of rebirth by melting in blood. So it seems like they believe that part of these important rituals actually requires you to burn people alive or boil them in blood, basically. They say melting, but they're talking about boiling people in blood, basically. The walls through the main street are also lined with the bodies of citizens that clearly were trying to escape something very terrifying. They failed, and their bodies were forcibly merged into the walls, stripped of all flesh. The chained coffins that we found throughout Yahar'gul have come alive, housing towers of writhing bones and skulls that chase after and attack us on sight. Located under a town square, we find a man's corpse in a private jail cell, wearing a bizarre cage around his head. He holds the upper cathedral key, the description of which makes clear that the Healing Church had 2 splinter sects: the School of Mensis, based out of Yahar'gul, and the choir, based out of the Upper Cathedral Ward. Given this acknowledgement that the School of Mensis controls Yahar'gul, it is safe to assume that they are the ones behind the kidnappings and the rituals that we have seen there. But the chanting we heard before in the lower streets has stopped. Was the choir responsible for the chanting? Obviously, if you're in a choir, or your group is called the choir, you would be assumed to be someone who would sing or at the very least chant. If so, why have they stopped? And was the great ritual that the schools at Mensis was trying to conduct completed? We make our way to the lowest grounds of the village and encounter what appears to be another ritual taking place. A group of bell-ringing maidens create a portal to the cosmos through which stars and nebula gases are visible, and a large, bloody, gory mass of humanoid body parts falls through. The mass is sentient and attacks us. Of course it does. The Bell Maidens are actively buffing this creature until we slay them. Upon defeating the creature known as the One Reborn, a hint back to the fact that it was created through a blood ritual, we receive yellow backbones, another ritual material comprised of human body parts, this time specifically spines. While it's not necessarily always the case, the more important ritual materials usually seem to be connected to the nervous system. Obviously, we have those eyeballs that are ritual materials. Let's pull that up real quick. Bloodshot eyeballs. Also, I thought there was another one, but maybe there isn't. Anyway, yeah, there is another one actually. That now that I think about it, that's much later in the game, but we'll see that when we actually get to it. But yeah, it tends to be that their rituals usually require something involving the nervous system in some small part, or maybe even in large parts. We enter a small chamber just behind the boss arena, and we find a very strange sight. Like, not everything that we find already isn't already strange, but you get what I'm saying. It's a room full of seated corpses, many of whom were chained to their seats, surrounding a central figure, and all of whom are wearing the cages that are around their heads, similar to the gentleman who was in the jail cell. They are stripped of their flesh, similar to the villagers that were forcibly merged into the walls of Yahar'gul. Let me scroll down. We exit Yahar'gul and return to the Cathedral Ward, this time headed back to the upper area of Uden Chapel, where we first encountered the abandoned church workshop. At the top of the chapel is a door that was previously locked. We use the upper cathedral key and enter the upper cathedral ward. Upon entering the area, we encounter small, slug-like creatures with what looks like suckers on their faces and tiny wing-like appendages, too small to actually achieve lift. The creatures and all of their multiple identical creatures that are all throughout the area are all found facing a large central clock tower to the east of the entrance. The central cathedral in the area is closed off and dark and populated by many of the werewolf-type beasts and also mind flayers. Given our knowledge of the means by which individuals transform in the game to this point, it is safe to assume that the choir was given to both using blood ministration and acquiring insight rapidly to expand their knowledge. And in fact, we get proof, I believe, of both of those. I believe some of the werewolves, for lack of a better term, have blood on them. If it's not blood vials, it's certainly the blood shards. And also we find hallways full of dead hunters or members of the church that all had Great One's wisdom, or what's the other ones called? I'm blanking on it right now. The madman's knowledge. I think that's what we've found more of, actually. But they're all over corpses throughout that area. So it looks like the school was comprised of people of both ideas on evolution, basically. I lost where we were. Oh, there we go. Just inside the cathedral, we find a set of choir garb. The description states that the choir is comprised of high-ranking members of the Healing Church and scholars that continue the work begun at Bergenworth. It also notes that they work together with a left-behind Great One to study the skies in search of astral signs. Could the slug creatures outside have been looking towards this left-behind Great One? We do actually find out that that is the case, but let me continue with the recap. On a corpse in the lower part of the cathedral, we find the Cosmic Eye Watcher badge. The description states that the choir stumbled upon an epiphany, much like Master Willem, that guides their experiments. Here we stand, feet planted in the earth, But might the cosmos be very near us, only just above our heads? And here is that item. And of course, the symbol in the very center of that eye is a picture of the cosmos itself with, the stars and galaxies and whatnot. I take a brief moment around this time during the trip through the Upper Cathedral Ward to discuss the Buddhist concept of the planes of existence, and specifically how the separate planes are usually visually set in tiers, one on top of the other. I also note that we have seen evidence of this possibly being the case in the world of Bloodborne. We enter the boss fight against Rom by jumping through a portal in the lake behind Bergenworth and seemingly drop into another layer, a dream layer. The choir's theory on the cosmos may not actually be that far-fetched. Upon slaying a mind flayer, we acquire the orphanage key. The description states that the orphanage, shadowed by the Grand Cathedral, was a place of scholarship and experimentation where young orphans become potent, unseen thinkers for the Healing Church. We already met one of the people responsible for the types of experiments that the choir conducts, the imposter Yosefka. She had been using villagers seeking asylum in the clinic and transforming them into celestial mobs, those blue mushroom creatures. These are most likely the unseen thinkers that they were creating. Let me get a drink here. On an upper balcony of the cathedral, we find a desiccated corpse performing the gesture called Make Contact, which is what we entered the video doing. This one right here. The choir may have attempted this initially to communicate with the Great One, or a Great One, and the results were obviously less than satisfactory because it was a desiccated corpse at that point. It is important to note that the gesture involves holding one's arms at a right angle or 90 degrees. This might have been an attempt to use math as the basis of communication with an alien species, but we do not know that for certain. We just know one arm is held straight up and one arm is held out to the side. In this case, it's to the right of the hunter's body, and then, of course, at one point, she will pivot her arms so that one arm is held out to the left of the body and then another one is held straight up. Eventually, she will do it. Come on, Victoria. Pivot your arms. Oh, you have to ruin all my fun. Okay. Anyway, where were we? Oh, now she does it. We make our way out to a large open courtyard populated by a field of unbloomed flowering plants. Upon approaching the field, we are accosted by a group of celestial mobs, and a boss fight begins. The leader of the group is a massive version of the Celestials known as the Emissary. Aside from the size, he is identical to the others. At one point, he extends the antennae, like his smaller brethren, in an attempt to summon cosmic energy and or meteors to attack us, but we ended up defeating him before that was possible. Upon defeat, the emissary drops a communion rune, which we had received before, but it's important to note that the item describes that it is typically carried by members of the Healing Church, so we could assume that the emissary was at one point a member of the Healing Church and possibly a member of the choir. Let's see, where else? I gotta scroll a little bit. It is important to note that the celestial mobs that were found throughout the fight were prone not only to spawning from within the flower bed of the garden, but also quick to run to cover within the garden, suggesting that they found either comfort or possibly even nourishment from the flowers within. Hard to say either way, but we just note that they were very apt to run into that flower bed while we were fighting. We shatter a large window overlooking the garden and find ourselves in the rafters high above the Grand Cathedral, where Laurence's deformed skull rests. We take an elevator in the back of the rafters down to a secret chamber below the Grand Cathedral. Within it lies the Altar of Despair, and we finally locate what we can absolutely confirm to be a great one, a Briatus. I know we had talked about the fact that amygdala may in fact be a great one as well, but it's hard to say because I believe it does not bleed normal blood. Great ones typically do have a blood-like substance, whereas kin have something that's a little bit paler and more grayish or even mucus-like for blood. The creature is a large slug-like being with many suckers on its face and large tattered wings on its back. That may be, in fact, what the small slugs outside were looking towards. That would certainly seem to be the case. And it would be important to note here that, of course, the small ones also had suckers on their face and tattered wings. So it seems an awful lot like Ebrietas was the mama. Now, we have seen plenty of items in the game up to this point that suggest that great ones always lose their children. They try to give birth and can't, and they seek a surrogate. So Ebrietas may be their mother or father. We don't really have sex for the great ones as far as we know. But we may start getting evidence that these creatures are not getting birthed directly by Ebrietas. Let's see, where was I? Ebrietas is wholly uninterested in our presence, laying face down in front of what looks like the corpse of Rom, surrounded by tomb mold. It is possible, although we don't know for certain, that this was the true form of Rom, and the one that we found in the dream was merely an imitation or a copy, one that Byrgenwerth possibly made, and it was capable of the same abilities as the true Rom. As awful as it sounds, we decide to kill Ebrietas. We summon help from outside the chamber. Curiously, once again, it's a member of the School of Mensis, in this case, Damien. During the second phase of the fight, an injured Ebrietas begins to generate a field of energy that slowly hurts us, and it also emits a high-pitched squeal that sounds almost electronic in nature. It is possible that this sound is Ebrietas attempting to signal for help from other Great Ones, but as she is a left-behind Great One, quotes, it is not powerful enough to actually be heard by anyone. We defeat Ebrietas and receive the Great Ys or Eyes Chalice, which states that this is the first Great Chalice that was brought back from the Labyrinth since the time of Byrgenwerth, and allowed the choir to have audience with Ebrietas. Whether this meant finding and capturing her or merely communicating with her, we don't know. But the Celestials are likely needed for direct communication, so possibly it's a combination of both. We approach the body of Rom, and we are given a chance to offer it flesh. Specifically, we offer it the queenly flesh, which was recovered from the body of Queen Annalise. The game advises us that the flow of time has reversed for this flesh, and Queen Annalise lives again. This serves two purposes. One, it allows us to continue our work in the Vile Blood Covenant if we actually joined it. In this case, we did not join that covenant because we're part of the League of Confederates. And two, it hints that Rom's bulwark was actually the ability to manipulate the flow of time, and he or she may have stopped the Mensis ritual by freezing time for everyone involved. This would also explain why Damien of Mensis was keen to help us clear a path to the body of Rom. You get access to the body of Rom, you can control the flow of time, and possibly stop the bulwark. But of course, it turns out that wasn't the cause of the bulwark, it was the one that was found underneath the lake. So Damien of Mensis may have just been hedging his bets, trying to take care of it both ways. Sorry, I need another drink here. We return to Uden Chapel, and we enter the courtyard where the body of the elderly woman now lays. We allow the amygdala, or lesser amygdala, outside pick us up and squish it with its cosmic magic hand, and we perish, quoties, only to wake up inside of the Hunter's Nightmare. We step outside of a nearly identical version of the Uden Chapel to a nearly identical cathedral ward, only this time it's gnarled up with stony, root-like growths all throughout the area. In the sky is a sun that is partially obscured by web-like growths in front of it. We note that this is what the reflected inside of an eyeball would look like, suggesting that we are actually inside of the eye of a blood-drunk hunter item that we required to enter the Hunter's Nightmare, which, let's go ahead and look at it real quick. Oh, come on. Oh, no, this one. Yeah, so basically, if you see all the little striations and bubbles and stuff in the iris portion of the eye there, obviously it's not a perfect eyeball, but close enough. That's kind of what it looked like, but from the other side of the iris, so from the inside of the eyeball looking out. And of course, if you're looking at a bright light, you would have that light kind of reflecting at you, kind of like a sunlight going through the pupil of the eye. So yeah, this basically what you're meant to assume from the way that the sun appears inside the nightmare is that we're actually inside of the eyeball, more likely this eyeball here. But that's not certain. It's just kind of conjecture. Following up the steps towards the Grand Cathedral, we're accosted by the first of the old hunters. The Eye of Blood Drunk Hunter, which we're looking at right now, states that all hunters eventually end up in the nightmare, doomed to engage in an endless hunt. And we are apparently this hunter's unwitting quarry. He may not have control over that. He is obviously in a state of mania from the blood, and now just attacking anything that he perceives as a threat and possible access to more blood. In the rotunda that was previously occupied by the large church servants, we find a large gathering of scourge beasts who are attacked and killed by the old hunters. We slay the hunters ourselves, and find a curious sight. The beasts do not attack us. If we approach them at all, they hold their hands in front of their faces and back away. What this may suggest is that the beasts that we have been encountering up to this point are all cognizant, not mindless monsters, and because of their horrific slaughter by hunters, are now conditioned to see hunters as a threat and attack on sight. Jura, it seems, had good reason to protect Old Yarnum. We find the old hunters' set scattered throughout the area, which states that in the old days, hunters were 10 a penny, as abundant as they were, and that one day the hunters all but disappeared, suggesting that they were all drawn into the nightmare, possibly all at once, possibly as they died in the waking world and then reawakened, not in the hunter's dream, but the nightmare itself. We don't know for certain. All we know is that the item says they all but disappeared one day. That's kind of the way it's described. So that could be literal. It could just be figurative. A pair of hunters attempt to enter the High Cathedral, but they are defeated by a large humanoid beast that attacks the hunters on sight. Given its skill and cosmic abilities, it is possible that the source of this nightmare added them as a means to ward off the blood-drunk hunters and protect important victims of the nightmare, those deemed worthy of extra punishment. From what we can tell at this point, the dream or nightmare realms often do not just appear out of thin air. They're usually something that is summoned or beckoned or created by somebody else. So the nightmare, as all-encompassing and awful as it sounds, is almost certainly not something that already existed. It is something that somebody created, and created it with a very specific purpose of punishing the hunters. So we will probably get to that point at some stage in the DLC. Let's see, where was I? I keep losing my place. A lot of text here. Sorry, guys. We find a boom hammer, which notes that the workshop heretics, known as the powder kegs, were responsible for implementing more intricate and gruesome designs into the hunter's weaponry, including the whirly jigsaw, which tears beast flesh into fine shreds, according to the item description. Their designs may have fed into the blood-drunk mania of the hunters. I mean, a lot of these items don't seem designed simply to slay a beast, but to inflict extra torment on them. So it seems like the powder kegs weren't just about quick, efficient ways to kill beasts, but almost ways of torturing them. In a lower canal of the ward, I can speak, we find blood ticks lining the banks of a large river of blood. This river might be meant as either a literal or figurative result of the hunter's actions, although we do not see any such rivers in the waking world. We certainly see what I would call cesspits or cesspools in central Yarnum, where bodies have fallen and lie dead. Not quite in the quantities that we're seeing in the nightmare here, but we certainly see them. But the water that they lay in, although disgusting, is not particularly red in color. Obviously, if blood lays out in the open air over time, I do believe it turns brown, so it could be blood. Hard to say. We locate pieces of the constable set, which states that a group of foreign constables chased the beast into Yarnum, and all but one was killed by the beast. The lone survivor defeated the beast, then devoured it whole. We then find Valter, the leader of the League of Confederates, as a summon near the boss room, where he is identified as Valter the Beast Eater. Mystery solved. As though it wasn't pretty obvious from his... not even sure what to call it, like relishing in the destruction of vermin and beasts or any creatures that were infected with vermin, that he might be the one who ended up eating a beast whole. This is pretty much the dead giveaway, his name. Among the growing piles of corpses, a few bodies begin to writhe and reach up towards us as if begging for mercy even after their slaughter. They are clearly meant to torment the hunters drawn into the nightmare, though the blood-drunk hunters may be too far gone to have any of their sense of the predicament that they find themselves in. On a side path near the boss room, we encounter a very strange sight. A humanoid figure housed within a large seashell falls to the ground, seemingly out of nowhere. Given our discussions of the possibility of multiple layered planes of existence, and the fact that most of those layers have portals in or near water, this creature appears to have fallen through a portal by accident and ended up here in the nightmare. The impact of the fall kills the man. Obviously, when we did that, I kind of screwed up the timing on it because I started entering the tunnel and then hesitated and looked away, and then by the time the triggered event took place, I wasn't looking at it, so we didn't get to see it. And it's meant to be a little bit of a jump scare because you start walking through that area and then just this huge mass slams down on the ground in front of you, and I botched it, so I apologize for that. This has not been a perfect playthrough up to this point, obviously, and I kind of wish I had gotten that one correct, but so be it. That's the way it is. Near the boss room, we find the Butcher set, which describes the Madaris twins, who we have had help us in a couple of fights, denizens of the Forbidden Woods, rather. They grew up in silent kinship with a poisonous snake, likely the massive one that attacked us in the Shadows of Yarnum boss fight. They eventually learned human ways and likely joined the League of Confederates, whereupon they learned of the presence of vermin everywhere, including in their beloved snake. This is all part of the item description. I'm not just making it up. The younger brother is said to have murdered the older as a result of this knowledge. Given this bit of background, the Madaris twins are very likely the grave guards that Master Willem kept at Bergenworth, who went mad from eldritch knowledge, supposedly, but we don't know this for certain. The set also established that the brothers assisted the villagers of the Forbidden Woods in gathering and dissecting prey for the research conducted by the Healing Church and or the School of Mensis. That's something that I missed when we were going through the last episode. Where is it? So the Butcher Mask told us all about the way that they grew up, but it turns out the rest of the gear also mentioned the part about dissecting beast prey, and I kind of missed that when we were going through it. So again, these recaps are a nice way to catch all the little bits that maybe I don't catch when we're playing through the game. All right, so here I am. We finally enter the boss arena, a corpse-filled pit in the lowest part of the cathedral ward. One corpse, barely capable of speech, begs us for help before a large horse-like beast identifies the corpse, and us, more likely, as beasts, and goes on the attack. During the fight with Ludwig, who is the creator of the Healing Church Hunter's Workshop, likely alongside Gehrman, he finds and begins to use his signature weapon, the Holy Moonlight Sword. Ludwig refers to the weapon as his true mentor, his guiding moonlight, suggesting that the weapon exerts an influence over him that affects his mind and alters his perception. Perhaps that is why he attacked us in the first place. We don't know. All we know for certain is he seems enraptured by the weapon when he finally picks it up he starts addressing it directly. We defeat Ludwig and receive the Guidance rune, which states that Ludwig found this rune along with the Holy Moonlight Sword. The description states that when Ludwig closed his eyes, he saw darkness inhabited by tiny beings of light, and he believes these beings offered him guidance and calmed his fears. The shape of the rune itself is very reminiscent of the light slugs or phantasms. Let's take a look at it right here. That are seen emanating from the Madman's knowledge and Great One's wisdom items. So you see this here, and then when you go to the Madman's knowledge item, wherever it is, there we go. So it's not a perfect example or a replica of it, because the rune has what looks like little arms, kind of, but what we're gathering is beings of light and slugs in this story are pretty much similar, or if not the same thing. Ludwig's head is still alive in the muck of the corpses that he was ostensibly responsible for. We talk to him, and he is clearly fighting to retain his sanity as he can be heard neighing uncontrollably. After switching into a set of church hunter garb, he asks us if his hunters have become the honorable Spartans that he intended for them to be. The honest and obvious answer to this question is no, they weren't. They were awful. They got drunk on blood and started killing people that weren't even turning into beasts. They were simply suspected of being future beasts. But we decided to placate Ludwig and tell him yes, so that we can set his mind at ease. As a result of that, we received the Holy Moonlight Sword, which confirms that Ludwig was receiving a form of guidance from the blade, but that said guidance was private and elusive in nature. And then we killed Ludwig because I am a heartless monster. So, all right, that was everything. These recaps get longer every single episode. Let me go ahead and note the stop time here. That was 32, if I could type correctly. Screw it. I'll do it later. Anyway, let's go ahead and get back to it. So I had mentioned in the last episode that I was going to level up a little bit just to try to offset some of the level difference between me and the enemies that we're fighting right now. And I did. I went into the Dungeon of Unfortunate Name and got enough experience for 10 more levels. I put all the points for that into Vitality and Endurance because health and stamina are always useful. But that hopefully will put just enough additional stats into my character that we can go defeat the people that we need to give a sound thrashing to. All right, so let us swap back to one of the old hunter sets because I like that set. Oh, it's right here. Where are those gloves? Oh, I bet I didn't get them. In fact, I know I didn't get them. We missed out on those while I was playing the game. It's all right. We'll find some. I'll just put those on. Good enough. All right, so the nightmare, I think, is here. Nope. Not there either. It's gonna be in one of these. This one. Did I miss the lantern? I thought I hit the lantern on the way in. Oh, that's going to be weird. The only way I'm going to be able to get back is to go to the Eden Chapel and get scooped back up. Yeah. All right, well. This is unique. I don't know if I've ever actually botched that entrance before. I am recording this episode in lieu of watching the Super Bowl because I have no interest in either of the teams that are playing right now and could care less who wins. I'm sure if there's some important bits of the game that I should see, I don't know, I went here, I will see them eventually. Turns out in this technologically advanced age that we live in, it's pretty easy to get what you're looking for quickly on the internet. I think I've knocked that stack of books over about a half dozen times at this point, so the question is, who keeps putting them back? It's probably the chapel dweller. I mean, we never see him move, but I have to guess he's tidying the place up while I walk through the area. Hi, old lady. Sorry I did this to you. Alright, let's make sure we do this right this time and actually light the lantern. Unfortunately, that also means we're going to have a long track back to where we need to go.
They're children, too.
Yes, yes, yes. Curse them. They're bad people. Shame on them. I don't know if we ever get a good explanation for why Amygdala is the one who puts us in the Hunter's Nightmare. I didn't. I never lit the lamp. Alright, well, we did this time. The jerk with the minigun is guarding the weapon that we missed. The weapon, or the gloves that I missed are right there. Right on that hill. I don't know how I kept running past that, never thought to check it out, but we will do so this time. Yeah, go after him, guys. There we go. Whee! And now we can put on the gloves real quick. Old hunter gauntlets made of brass to protect their weapon-bearing hands. At the time, some hunters believed that certain metals would ward off beast blood. On a night of the hunt, it is no wonder that some resort to superstition. So, a little bit of extra flavor, but nothing super critical. I'm getting shot at. Still got it, baby. Ouch! You jerk. Got most of my blood back. Oh, I just noticed something. We'll just play with it as is. This may be a bit of a shorter episode today. Just doing some cleanup on some stuff that we didn't quite accomplish in the last episode. May or may not go the way I'm hoping, but we'll give it our best to do everything. First of all, we want to try to get the area behind that minigun wielding guy opened up so that we can get the items within. And if we accomplish that, great. And if not, we need to come back here and go inside those doors, because there is something important in there that we need to advance, and also a boss that we need to fight. That is the High Cathedral, so if you are familiar with the person that is of importance from that area in the past, you'll probably know who the boss is going to be. Can't do it with your gun, buddy. Down you go. Alright. I had some fingerless gloves on to help warm my hands up because the temperature just dropped about 40 degrees in the last 24 hours, so I need to take those off. My hands are nice and warm now. I think I can do this. Alright, I don't need to mess with you guys. Oh, maybe I do. Forgot. That is not a path down. Oh, that's lame. That should be hurting those guys as well as me. Big swing. Sit down. Ah, they got me. All right, stop that. It's not working. Let's get some blood. Get out of there. He punched me. Jerk. So in the process of attempting to level up between episodes, I did change my runes. I put on a moon rune, which gives you more blood echoes whenever you kill an enemy, so that did help in the Dungeon of Unfortunate Name. Alright, you're dead. We're just going to run past the blood bugs, because we want to go find the jerk with the minigun. Owie! Stop it! Ow! Oh! And they'll de-aggro eventually. We're not being followed. Good. Alright. So we didn't have much luck the first 2 times we tried this. We may just run past him to get the item that I need in the back of the cave. Probably not a great strategy, but desperate times call for desperate measures. Ow. Just fell through the map. Well, that's one way to beat him. Of course, that means I won't be able to get the item unless I come back here. Watch him fall back through the top of the screen. Well, it's like I always say, the best strategy is to just make the enemy glitch out of the map. I mean, it's not the most easy strategy to follow, but it certainly worked. All right, well, let's go get the item that we were originally here for, and we'll worry about that guy if we need to later. Sorry, buddy. You had to suffer. Let's see if they're friendly or hostile. Definitely hostile. Ah, there he goes. All right, so it took a couple seconds before he actually died, but I got the item as a result. So we get his Gatling gun for killing that hunter. Obviously, if you did it the right way, you would have just killed him and then the item would have popped in your inventory, but we got a kill. That's all that matters. I'm not going to reset the game just to get a fairer kill. I don't care if that was fair. It's a blood-starved beast! That's what we were here for. Uh-oh. Get him. Owie! So this may or may not go well. I don't recall having a ton of trouble with him before, but that was before and this is now. Swap to the saw spear. Doesn't seem to be proccing his little poison trick yet, but maybe it's not in this version of him. Rock his ass! Oh, he's almost dead. He's almost dead. And he's dead. What do I get for all that work? A gem. Of course. So this may have actually been a literal representation of Volter's chase down into the cave or some area where they were trying to hunt this beast and then ended up getting killed off. Hard to say. If that was the case, I don't think the blood-starved beast would have been a boss, but interesting that we found it here, at least a version of it. Oh, let's take a look at the 2 items that we picked up before we head back out. Sorry, I needed a drink there. Amygdalan arm. The arm of a small amygdala great one. So they call it a great one here, but I've heard people say that it is not a great one, so interesting. Strictly speaking, the amygdalan arm is not a trick weapon of any sort, but certain madmen wield them like clubs. Starts as a large, tough, blunt weapon formed of bone, but when extended, the hand quivers as if it were alive. And then we also found the Gatling gun. This is a highly customized, portable version of the stationary Gatling gun operated by the old hunter Jura in Old Yarnum. It was the weapon of choice of the youngest of Jura's 3 companions. The Gatling gun boasts exceptional rapid-firing functionality, but is considered a cumbersome weapon due to its excessive weight and insatiable consumption of quicksilver bullets. Which is a nice way of saying, yeah, it can shred people, but you're going to run out of your bullets very quickly when you use it because it's a Gatling gun. Ooh, excuse me. Alright, anyway. Hey, blood buggies! Bye, blood buggies! So we accomplished what we wanted to do here. Now we have one more thing we want to do, and then we're out of here. Oh, there it is. We're going to go all the way back to the High Cathedral. We're probably going to worm our way past the big brute. I don't know if I'm willing to try attacking him. Probably lose more progress than it's worth. Oh, someone's taking damage up here. I think that may be the big boy. He's still fighting. Surprised that it didn't end already. There he is. Well, he did what he wanted to do. And that's probably hunters down below attacking some of the beasts. We get their blood echoes for the work that's completed. Ah, that didn't work. This is a bad weapon for this. Okay. Back up. Let him do his aggro attack. Ah, shoot. Okay, get away, get away, get away, get away. Nope, 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 nope. I don't know if he can go through the doors. He can go through the doors. He has gone through the doors. Got him. All right, that was tough. And I got some blood back for it, so there's that. After all we've been through, to see these statues surrounding the entrance of the High Cathedral really puts things in perspective, doesn't it? Those are basically representations of amygdala, so the High Cathedral not only was aware of their presence, but revered them, seemingly. let's put on... why not? So, when we were here in the waking world, we saw the head of Laurence on that altar. And now we see a beast with similar proportions to the kind of skull that Laurence had sitting on a throne. I wonder who that could be. So he won't attack us if we walk all the way up here and then touch the item in his hand. The eye pendant. And we'll take a moment to read said item. We should be safe just standing here for the time being. An eye pendant which unlocks the surgery altar. There are 2 cathedrals in the Hunter's Dream. One lies past the River of Blood, and another contains the private research hall of the Healing Church. Only chosen members of the Healing Church, or their lamentable patients, can enter the research hall using this eye. Grant eyes to the surgery altar skull. So that was a key that we needed to actually go past the boss arena that we were in the last episode. And we didn't pick it up before because once you take that item and attempt to leave the room, Laurence is going to aggro. And yes, that is Laurence. I don't want to fight. Oh, he's supposed to aggro. Maybe I have to do something else. I'm not sure. Now, we can always come back later. Well, why not? Let's go ahead and do the fight. There's a very good chance I'm going to get my butt whooped. He is arguably one of the toughest bosses in the game. Interesting. I thought you could start the fight by now. Maybe you have to come back later. That's all right. Actually, I know what I gotta have. All right, yeah, there is an item that we have to pick up in order to start that fight, and we have not found it yet. So let us advance to the area that we also forgot to light another lamp for. I was not as thorough in playing through this area as I would have liked, but we did the best we can. The DLC can be very large and sprawling and in some ways confusing, so I'm not surprised that we missed some stuff. Hey, what up? See ya. Oh, what? He tried to go back to his spawn point, and he was like, oh, wait, no, you're running towards me. Uh-oh. This didn't go as planned. Never does. Alright, leave the birds alone. The guy's aggroed. Oh, the dog's here. He's aggroed and he's stuck. What a waste of bullets. But it was fun. Wow, that was a big swing. Come on, let me hit back. I got what I needed. Let's get out of here. Only reason even to fight him is so that you can get up the ladder safely. And this is going to be a treacherous run here if the two big boys are still here. Yes, they are. Good news is they're slow, so you can just run right past them. Owie! Hey, eyeball scooper. Bye, eyeball scooper. I guess I did light this lantern, so why didn't I see it in the menu options? I must have missed a tomb somewhere. In fact, I believe I know which one I missed, so that's all right. This is the gentleman that we found in the tunnel, the shortcut before. His name is actually the Harrowed Hunter. And yes, this is a bit of dialogue that you get when you actually kill the skull of Ludwig.
A tragic figure, but he will shame himself no longer. He died with his ideals untarnished. He was a true hero, and earned that much at least. Do you know why the hunters are drawn to this nightmare?
Because they bad.
Because it sprouted from their very misdeeds. Things that some would rather keep secret. A pitiful tale of petty arrogance, really. High time someone exposed the whole charade.
Someone like, say, me?
Now, go on ahead. You seek nightmares and the secrets within, do you not? Now, you see.
Okay. Before we go any further, a good time to restock on our supplies and also swap my runes that I had changed. Also, we may or may not be able to finish the last bit of the next big area in one episode, so it wouldn't be a bad idea to come back here, clean up a little bit. Is it this one? This is the one. That's what I was thinking. All right, so that's where you go to warp back in. This. So that was communion, I think is what we were using. So there we go. And it wouldn't be a bad idea actually to see how we're doing on blood and bullets, because we have been using a lot. Blood vials are pretty low. Bullets are okay. I think we had 300 of each in stock. I did some farming to get some more of those at one point, so we're not too bad. I may have to take an episode to go scoop up some souls or blood echoes and buy some more at another time. But there's one more thing we wanted to do. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to be able to trick this guy into falling. It would be really nice, but let's see if we can't give this fight against the jerk that was plaguing Eileen one more shot. I want to beat it. I want to save the day. Eileen deserves that much. Her purpose now has a more noble theme to it, knowing that the people who ended up in the nightmare were all bad, blood-drunk, killing for pleasure, not so much for saving the innocent people of Yharnam. So we owe it to her to try to save the day at the very least for her. See ya. Rolled right past him. He was like, I'm gonna get you, and then I ran past him. He was like, I guess I'm not getting you. Don't worry, Eileen. Attempt number 8 will be the one. I think we'll do all right. Oh! Oh, he got me. And got me, and I'm done. Oh! Nope, I'm done. Okay, number 8 didn't work out so well, but number 9, I have a feeling. Do you appreciate how hard I am working to try to save your life? Because the answer is very, very hard. And it is not going well. Ah, never get the timing on that right. Still not. I'm gonna get you one of these days. Ah! Not like that. Nope, you missed. I like that you keep bleeding for me. Thank you. Makes me feel better about my chances of this fight. Nope. Ow! Ah, we both shot each other, but his bullets actually hurt, mine don't. Uh-oh. Ah, I couldn't stagger him while he was trying to heal. Come on, you jerk. Nope, didn't work. Dang it. Get some blood. Oh, I need blood bad. Aha, you missed. Oh, I'm done. He killed me. Ah, boy. It's just not getting it done. This is brutal. Ooh, rolled into it. Ah, that should have been a stagger. Ow. Uh-oh. Yeah, see, he dodges it. I hit you with it. For once. But that's not going to be a long-lasting effect, unfortunately, and I may be dead here. Oh. Oh, what was that? A close-range shot with a gun killed me. I had more than half of my health. We gave it our best, Eileen. I am sorry to say you are going to die here because I can't keep doing this. So there's someone inside this cell who is saying something. We don't know what it is. But we also know that I'm about to be invaded. And we know that because... Oh, never mind. It ended. When the entrance to particular areas get covered by fog, that usually means you're in danger of getting invaded. But the game, I guess, couldn't pull who it was trying to in, so it just stopped the invasion. It ended it prematurely. Oh, here we go. I'm about to be attacked by two people. And one of them is a gun wielder, so I better roll for him. Ah, oh, come on. Back to back. You had it coming, buddy. On these slower enemies, the parries are so much easier. So it appears that this is a jail of some kind, and we're going to find out what kind of jail it is in a short few seconds here.
Are you a hunter? Well, that's very odd. Do you hear the toll of the bell?
There he is. I will say I do hear the bell.
Liar. Such pettiness will be your undoing. The beast you seek will not be found here. Go back to your hunt. And you have the chance, put this night behind you. Places better left untouched. Secrets better left alone. Only a fool would so brazenly run.
So you can see in the distance, and maybe it would be easier to see if I put on the monocular. Oh, it actually used the monocular. Idiot. There we go. See if we can get a good angle on it. In his hand is a bell. Now, what we know about the bell, at least up to this point in the game, is that the bell-ringing maidens use it to summon enemies. So if a gentleman who is inside of a jail cell like that has a bell, I wonder what he's going to be doing with it. And these do, again, appear to be jail cells of some kind. Oh, thought I was about to be attacked. It's like, uh-oh. That is a very big hunter, almost like a church servant. Come on. No, I don't want to look at the note. I want to look at the body. Fist of Gratia. Which is not a melee weapon so much as it is a left-handed weapon. A chunk of iron fitted with finger holes. The hulking hunter woman, Simple Gratia, ever hopeless when handling hunter firearms, preferred to knock the lights out of beasts with this hunk of iron, which incidentally caused heavy stagger. Gratia was a fearsome hunter, and to onlookers, her unrelenting pummeling appeared oddly heroic. No wonder this weapon later assumed her name. So if you are the kind of person who likes to get up close and personal with your left-handed weapon, you can actually put it in the left-handed slot, and instead of using bullets to do your parries, you can just punch enemies in the face. It's actually not bad, but it goes back to the Dark Souls style of parries where you have to actually time the hit perfectly or you take damage. And let's put on Executioner gloves. So no surprise here. We're back inside of a church. There's a very large rat on the backside of this church. Several very large rats, apparently. Bloodstone chunks, always yummy. We're walking over the tombs of someone or something. Another body with the eyes covered. Now, we'll get into the nitty-gritty of the beds and all this stuff in a second here, but let's focus on the thing front and center here, which is a hunter or a church member. Whoa! You're not doing so well, lady. And one down, one to go. Stairs are a good way to get rid of the one because I think unless she's locked on, she can't hit you with that ranged attack.
Were it not for fear, them. But in the frailty of men, there was minds young,
So if you couldn't tell, the chanting that we're hearing in the background, which is likely coming from that lady there, is much the same as the Vicar Amelia's chants before we started the fight against her. Which could suggest that that right there is the nightmare version of Vicar Amelia. I can't say that for certain. But you did just hear the chanting stop, so if it was coming from her and it was identical dialogue, you would have to assume that was Vicar Amelia. The nightmare version, at least. Great One's wisdom. So, this room, sitting directly above a row of jail cells, and we're finding lots of Madman's knowledge and Great One's wisdom on these corpses, would lead one to believe that what they were doing was they were capturing hunters who perhaps had broken some kind of code or proved to be suitable subjects for experiments, and they were bringing them up here. And as we know, Master Willem was keen to attempt implanting eyes on the inside. Now, how do we know that's what they were doing? Well, let's take a look at the altar here. First of all, you see a rat beast of some kind underneath the altar. You see men reading, conducting experiments, and in the center you see a statue that looks very much like the headgear, what's the name of it? The mitre that Master Willem was wearing with the eyes covered. And what does this game want me to do? It wants me to insert an eye pendant. And it's going to have me insert it directly into that opening in the skull. So this is a visual representation of us literally placing eyes on the inside. So this was pretty much a room where they conducted surgical rituals, for lack of a better term. They did surgery, but they also conducted it in the manner of a ritual, which would explain why there is a gentleman holding a bell while conducting this surgery. Otherwise, why would he need to be there? Now, this is going to be a little bit confusing. We're not going into that area just yet. We're going to go back down where we just were. We're going to step off the altar, re-engage it, step off again. Because one of the things that Miyazaki loves to do in his games is make secret passages using elevators. So you'll note that this appears to be the altar that Laurence was laid upon, or at least a version of it. And on that altar, Lawrence's skull. Let's take a look at that. That's a key item, I believe. Here we go. The skull of Laurence, first vicar of the Healing Church. In reality, he became the first cleric beast, and his human skull only exists within the nightmare. The skull is a symbol of Lawrence's past and what he failed to protect. He is destined to seek his skull, but even if he found it, it could never restore his memories. So this is his torment. He has a human skull and a past as a noble, or at least started as a noble member of the Healing Church, the leader of the Healing Church. But, you know, as blood ministration became more pronounced and widespread, and it started affecting people and turning them into beasts, he suffered the worst of all the transformations and became the cleric beast that we saw in the High Cathedral of the nightmare here. So we now have the means to provide him what he has long sought but been unable to access. Now, there's one more thing we want to do here. We don't want to just let this thing go to waste. Let's go down with it. See what else we can get. Ta-da! Church cannon. Now, you might have recognized that from the iteration that we had seen one of those big brooding beasts carrying around. An oversized weapon used by the Healing Church. A type of cannon that fires with a curved trajectory and creates an explosion upon impact. Originally designed to be used by brawny men with deteriorated brains, not just any ordinary hunter. But the men lacked the wits to effectively operate firearms, and the weapon was quietly ushered into permanent storage. And now we get to use it. Although I actually can't, because it requires 16 blood tinge and 27 strength, and I lack neither of those stats, or I lack both of those stats, rather. So not only will we not be able to use it right now, but it uses 10 bullets for each shot fired, so a very costly weapon to use. Anyway, back to the top. Come on. Operate the device. I don't need to see this guy losing. It's a shame there isn't a lever somewhere in the High Cathedral that would allow us to do the same thing, but again, this is just a representation of the High Cathedral, not the actual High Cathedral. While everything is laid out in a very similar manner, it's not exactly the same. So we are going to go back to the Hunter stream, and we're going to go return this skull to Laurence. What this will do is this will initiate the boss fight that I was trying to get earlier so that we can try to take him down. Probably the best use of the last 25-30 minutes that we have in this episode. And I don't know if there's anything else we need to do. Fire's not going to help us in this next fight because obviously he is already on fire. And I don't know if there's any gems that we picked up that would be worth the effort, although we did get some blood chunks, so we can stick those on one of the weapons if we have the means to do so. Not enough for that one, but enough for this one. Alright, so. And. Oh, a little bit better. Nice. I don't think I got anything here, so that's gonna do it for that. And I always do that. I can go this way. Nightmare Church. Not sure if there was one in there. I don't think there was. I think the only way to get to him is to go through Hunter's Nightmare. I don't know where that was. Oh, I know where that is. That's outside of the main fight area, because there was a lantern down the street in a little causeway from the boss fight with Ludwig, so that would not help us. The closest one is going to be the one that we're going to right now, which will involve a little bit of dodging enemies, but so be it. We're as ready as we're going to be for this fight, barring another off-camera run of me leveling up again, which I don't want to do. It feels so cheap. Bye, boys. Big swings. You're not my target. Oh, I gotta have Walter here. And hopefully he does not try to fight those guys. I need you up here, buddy. Don't fight him. Come with me. Thank you. Don't even look at him. That's not our target. This is our target. Here we go. From Software makes some of the best creature designs in all of video games, and I don't think there is any disputing that. He knows I have what he wants, but he suffers immensely no matter what. Not a great start. Where are you, Walter? Need you, buddy. Ouch! It didn't really do much. Ah, man, one hit did almost half my damage. Or more than half my damage. You leave my buddy alone! He's here to eat you. Oh. No, no! I need some health. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I'm dead. I think I already said it, but this is widely considered the toughest fight in the game. He has a lot of high damage attacks, does area of effect. His turn radius is basically 360 whenever he wants. Very difficult fight. Those grabs that he does can do a ton of damage if you allow him to get you. You hear stings of the Cleric Beast music coming in with this song as well. Oh, I'm dead. His lock-on targeting is flat unfair at times because you'll be on the backside of him and he'll snap to you immediately and start attacking. It can be a very frustrating fight. He's not entering the arena. That's troublesome. And look at that. He's locking on. Oh, there he is. Thank you, Walter. I know you had to take some lumps to get here, but you came. That's what I care about. Ouch! You leave my buddy alone! Alright, get out of there, get out of there! Alright, phase change. He's gonna start doing some more lava-type attacks. And eventually he's gonna get cut right in half. There he goes. Uh-oh. I gotta get out of there. Ow. Oh, man. I couldn't get in. There was no opening. Ow. Didn't hit. Take two. Just never hits. Never seems to hit. Leave Walter alone! Oh, come on! Oh, big hits, big hits. Can't see? Phase change. And now it's third phase. Oh boy, he's flailing. Good job, Walter. Oh boy. Don't like that at all. No! Don't let him flail me to death! Ah! Ah! That felt like it was going to be the one, and it wasn't. Let's switch things up. Use the extended version of the weapon. Come on. What was that bullshit? Oh no. No! No! Boy, that hit every time. That second swing. I don't know how to avoid it. Uh-oh. I don't know what that is. Ouch. I can't get in. I couldn't get in. It's just too much flailing. Way too much damn flailing. Ah, man, that sucked. The hell's Volter? Tell me you're not out there wrestling with that big guy. He is, isn't he? I knew it! He got trapped! So now I gotta do all the frickin' work myself. I couldn't get out of the way of the explosion there. That figures. I think this episode's just going to be a compilation of all the times I've died in the last 40 minutes or so. Maybe even longer. Oh! Oh, come on! Oh, it's so close! Hey, I got a visceral. Hey, it did barely anything. I'm dead. Yeah, I can tell that having that extra assistance, even if they do buff the boss as a result, is definitely helping me. Maybe not from bad choices, but still helping. I don't believe this shit. Oh, god damn it. I'm getting a drink. I didn't think this was going to be the breaker fight of the entire game. Jesus. Oh, come on! What was that? I had no chance to respond. I'm out of blood vials. I can't even do this. Alright, well, if I needed a more rude awakening for how this episode's going, I can't even do the fight against him anymore. I have got to leave. I'm going to regroup, and we'll do the off-camera grinding that I said I was going to do, and hopefully the next episode we'll be able to finally tackle Laurence. But thanks everyone for watching, and I apologize in advance. Let's do the sign-off as usual. I will see you next. You know what? No, I'm not ending the episode like that. I went and grinded a bunch of levels so that I could tap out the soft caps for both my vitality and endurance. We're not going to let Laurence chump me like that. I'm getting back in there and I'm beating his ass. Wrong grave. I did not like how that episode left off. This is 2 days after that previous ending to the episode where I just kept getting my ass handed to me over and over by Laurence. And I went ahead and grinded up a whole bunch of experience in the dungeon of unfortunate naming. We're going to beat him today. Oh, that's not a good start. That's not a good continuation. I came in here headstrong and ready to take him down, and I got pummeled in the first fight back. Of course I did. Just about to split. There we go. Nope, nope, get out of there. Come on, let me heal, let me heal, let me heal, let me heal. What? Couldn't get away. Could not get away, no matter what I did. Oh, crap. Come on. Big chomps. Uh-oh. Oh, oh, no, 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 no! Get out of the lava! Mm. Alright, buddy, it's just you and me now. Get out of the lava! Ah! Big swing. Doing a lot of flailing, you're just not hitting me. Oh, damn it. Why did I say anything? Clutch dodge! All right. Get out of there. Get out of there. Huh. Nothing. Doing no damage. I gotta buff that stat way higher if I want it to be useful. Nope, not like that. Get out of there. Get out of there. Get out of there. Come on, Volter, do something. Don't just stand in this frickin' lava. Oh, come on! Get a hit. There we go. Damn it. Come on, get some health. Get some health, buddy. Volter, you champion, you! Get in there! Come on! Yeah! Oh, suck my Laurence. I'm just gonna cry here for a minute. Why was that fight so hard? I have never died that many times to him before. I do not understand what I was doing wrong. Oh my dear God. Alright. We're gonna go back to the Hunter stream. So I can get some blood back. And then we're going to go take out that son of a bitch that was hunting down Eileen. If I have to make the rest of this episode about killing him, we're going to do it. Also, I want to mess around with one of the runes we just picked up. So, by killing Laurence, we acquired the Beast's Embrace rune. After repeated experiments in controlling the scourge of beasts, the gentle Embrace rune was discovered. When its implementation failed, the Embrace, in quotes, became a forbidden rune, but this knowledge became a foundation of the Healing Church. Those who swear this oath take on a ghastly form and enjoy accentuated transformation effects, especially while wielding a beast weapon. So what this does is, in place of your Covenant rune, you put it on, and it does this. I'm now a beast. So what I have read is that this was a mechanic that they meant to have more depth for in the game, where basically your beasthood was a stat that as you developed it higher and higher, which, by the way, is directly proportional to the amount of insight you have. If you have really high insight, you have really low beasthood, and vice versa. If your beasthood was really low, the way the game was supposed to work was you would be able to do more damage, but you would also take on more in return from enemies. So it was kind of a risk and reward type play, where you could do far more damage to the enemies you were fighting, but they would also be able to do it back to you as well. But that is not a great rune to keep on if you're not going for a low insight, high blood tinge style of gameplay, which we're not. We are going after purely insight and strength. And we're going to see how many blood vials I got left, because I did use quite a few there. And I did buy some in between episodes, so let's buy up another 46 to stock what we just used. Okay, we'll dump the rest in bullets. Whatever. That was starting to get frustrating. And by starting to get, I mean it was beyond frustrating. I was starting to think I was going to have to go grossly overboard with my leveling, which, I mean, in some people's minds, level 93 would probably be grossly over-leveling to begin with, but this is supposed to be a lore play, not a Victory Nub demonstrates his mastery of Bloodborne and From Software style games playthrough. And believe me, this will end. Even if it takes 25, 30 episodes. I don't expect it to take 25 to 30 episodes. I expect it to take maybe at most 4 or 5 more. If we're lucky. Hey, what up? Well, I've done this run so many times in the Nightmare, I feel like it's old hat now. Hey, Eileen, I'm back. And this time I won't let you down. Ow. Well, that didn't work. Ow, ow. Uh-oh, uh-oh. That didn't go so well. Good swing. Damn. After Lawrence's many different fights, I feel like this is rather sedate. Nah, you're not getting me. Can't see! You're not healing! Ah, damn it. Oh, that was a lucky dodge. Come on, you jerk. Ah, didn't get lucky that time. And finally, Jesus! All it took was a little bit of cheap leveling to get this done. Alright, what did we get for all that straining and stress over one frickin' fight? A rune I'm not going to use, of course. Well, this will give a little bit of insight into the person we were fighting, although I think I might have talked about it before. A Kareth rune that transcribes inhuman sounds. Blood Rapture is the raw euphoria of the warmth of blood. Restore HP with visceral attacks, one of the darker hunter techniques. This rune resonates with servants of the Queen, carrier of the Child of Blood, who yearn for their Queen's blood with little hope of requitement. For them, they find solace in blood rapture that serves as a surrogate for their desires. So, one of the important things to note about the Castle Canehurst and the inhabitants of Castle Canehurst, the royal family, and the Queen, carrier of the Child of Blood, is that the inhabitants of Castle Canehurst are very likely descended from the Queen from down in the labyrinths. Her actual name is Queen Yarnum, or Yarnum, Queen of the Tumerians. So Canehurst has a connection to the beings that came from the labyrinth. You'll note that family members from that line are all very pale. They all have elongated limbs. Their eyes are not blacked out quite like the Tumerian members that we usually find, but that is also why they tend to have excessive or extraordinary abilities above and beyond what normal human beings would have, kind of like the Tumerians themselves. So we did it. Just like Laurence, it only took me about 20 tries, but I beat him.
Don't you ever listen to your elders?
No.
No matter. You did save my life.
Yes, I did.
I don't seem to be apt for this life anymore. My glory days were long ago now.
Eileen, I saved you. Don't talk like this.
I know. Here. For you.
You're going to live a long, fruitful life. You can't give up like this.
This too is hunter's work. But it bears no honor. A burden you may choose to carry. The decision is yours alone.
What are you talking about? You're going to get up and you're going to be just fine.
My eyes grow heavy.
No, they don't. Come on, stand up.
Let me rest a while.
Ah, damn it.
I'll be fine. Just wait.
You're not going to be fine. Eileen, you got to get up. I know this is all your blood here, but you need to move. And all she's going to do is breathe. All right, well, let's take a look at the new items that we just got. We got a rune, the Hunter rune. Hunter, a Kareth rune that transcribes inhuman sounds. This red smudged rune means hunter and has been adopted by those who have taken the Hunter of Hunters oath. These watchmen admonish those who have become addled with blood. Be they men or beasts, anyone who has threatened the pledgers of the Hunter Oath surely has an issue with blood. So basically, as she had talked about many times before, she hunts hunters, basically anyone who had allowed their use of blood to become an addiction and started hunting people or beasts, not out of a sense of duty, but out of a sense of euphoria, basically. And as you can see, from the description, which I just blew right past. Here we go. It boosts your stamina recovery speed. So in concert with the other one that I normally use, this one here, that would make a nice complement. Hard to say if I'm going to use that over the other two, which I have. Plus 4% damage reduction is not nearly as useful as it sounds. That's a very minor bump to your damage boost. The bigger boost you get from defense is going to be leveling up because you get a small increase in your physical defense every time you gain a level. I believe that continues all the way until you get soft cap for each of your stats, which is usually 40 or 30. So we also picked up a badge, which was the Crow Hunter badge. Badge of a hunter of hunters, who hunts those who have become addled with blood. The badge of the hunter of hunters is quietly passed down from generation to generation, usually to an outsider from the hinterlands. To be entrusted with this cursed badge, one must be strong, resilient to the seduction of blood, and gracious when taking a comrade's life. Well, I wasn't gracious with that jackass upstairs. But basically what that's going to allow us to do is buy her outfit there. If she doesn't just drop it when we come back here, because I do believe she does pass away after you leave. Unfortunately, the endings for pretty much all of the NPCs in From Software games are usually pretty melancholy. Not great. Even people who seemingly have happy endings in these games, typically when you come back to where you last see them after their questline finishes, are dead. That's just the way they designed the game. Alright, so with her outfit, let's see if there's anything new in here. Nothing there. Nothing there. Maybe her weapons. Yes, so this is her weapon right here, the Blade of Mercy. We didn't really get a good look at it when we were fighting Henrik, really, but it's a pair of small blades that are more effective if you have a high skill stat, which we do not, but let's take a look at them. A special trick weapon passed down among hunters of hunters, one of the oldest weapons of the workshop. Splits into two when activated. The weapon's warp blades are forged with siderite, a rare mineral of the heavens, most effective in swift attacks, such as after a quick stepping. This is very much the kind of weapon you would want to use if you were trying to stack poison on an enemy, especially rapid poison. If we had done some farming in the Chalice dungeons to pick up some of the gems that you'll find down there, they do have some that will give you rapid poison build, and if you use a weapon that does lots of very quick light attacks like the Blade of Mercy, this is a great way to take down either NPC fighters or humans, because you stack that rapid poison and all they have as far as recovery for that is either to use an antidote, which makes them vulnerable to attack, or waste their blood vials trying to keep up with the damage it stacks on them. And here is the outfit. All right, so let's take a look at... I guess these three all have the same finish. Those two have something different. Crow feather garb. Attire worn by Eileen the Crow, Hunter of Hunters, known in particular for her crow feather cape. Hunters of Hunters dress as crows to suggest sky burial. The first Hunter of Hunters came from a foreign land and gave the dead a virtuous native funeral ritual rather than impose a blasphemous Yarnum burial service upon them, with the hope that former compatriots might be returned to the skies and find rest in a hunter's dream. So this is an interesting bit of additional building or context to build upon what I had talked about in a previous episode with the Buddhist belief of multiple planes of existence existing in a tiered, layered structure. Basically, the people of this particular foreign land, the Hunters of Hunters, did sky burial because they understood that the dream realm existed in another tier or another layer, in this case above the waking world. So they would bury people or conduct their funerals in a way that allowed them to ascend back up to the dream. Now, if I'm not mistaken, and I can put a note on the screen here if this is not the case, sky burial is usually, I believe, allowing crows or other birds to consume the body of the dead. I'm not 100% certain on that, but I think that's what it is. Beak mask, a wood-carved mask of Eileen the Crow, Hunter of Hunters. The beak contains incense to mask scents of blood and beast. So I think that is twofold. One, it's to actually mask the disgusting smell of rancid blood, which the game has done very little to dissuade you of the notion that everything in Yharnam just stinks. Because blood, when it becomes rancid, is not very pleasant smelling. But also the smell of beast. But in this case, I think also masking the scent of blood is also to help prevent the hunter of hunters from becoming blood drunk or blood addled, like the other hunters they're ostensibly there to kill. So, can I buy either or any of that? I'd have to use some of my stashed cold blood. Oh yeah, I've got plenty of Madman's knowledge still. I could put in almost 70 insight if I wanted it. The key there, of course, is that I don't really need that much insight right now. Not quite. How about these? Use multiple. Nope, multiple. We can get the main pieces. Yes. Yes. Oh, we're going to fall just short. All right, so let's use one more cold blood. I mean, I did all this work to try to save her life. I want to put on her clothing. There we go. And even if I wanted to purchase the Blade of Mercy, I don't know if that's something that we would actually... Well, no, we have the stats for that. So, let's put that on. In honor of poor Eileen, who almost certainly, if she hasn't already passed away, by the time we get back to her body will be gone. All right. There we go. That is a very cool outfit. Now, it turns out there is another way to get that, and if you get in the fight with Henrik in the Tomb of Udin, and you allow Henrik to kill Eileen, or through your own attacks accidentally kill her, I believe you can pick up all of her clothing from her body when she dies. So there is a way to get this outfit without having to beat your head against a wall trying to take down the hunter that she was after later in the game. But let us go ahead and wrap it up. That was a very frustrating stretch of gameplay. I'm going to cut the fights up almost certainly so that you're not sitting through what's going to end up being like 3 hours of video. It's probably only going to be about an hour and 45, maybe 2 hours at most. But let's go ahead and do a nice gesture to celebrate. Do I have anything that's really insane? Let's see what we got. Anything where he just goes banana bonkers? Hunter's Rally. Joy! There we go. That's the one. This is how I feel! All right, everyone. Thanks for sticking through those ridiculously excessive number of fights with Laurence and whatever that guy's name was. I do appreciate everyone watching, and I will see you next time.